Okay, Vishrut, first question. 2021 wasn't an easy year with the coronavirus pandemic, and there are still a lot of several issues need to be concerned as well in 2022 with the tapering off from the Fed, interest rate hikes planned from many central banks, and of course higher inflation. And apart from that, we're still facing global supply chain crisis and energy crisis as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. So are there still a lot of threats to the global economy in 2022?
So, Monica, from our perspective, 2020 and 2021 were significantly challenging years. We saw the virus, the pandemic being the key concern that economies had to deal with, and to face that, we had this wave of stimulus and precautionary measures as well on the health front. 2022 is going to be an year of consolidation. I think what we're going to see is, steadying the ship. And the key context of this steadying the ship is going to be this normalization in US monetary policy, as you pointed out. And of course, we're also dealing with, at the same time, emerging COVID variants, etc., that we need to watch out for. So 2022 is going to be this transition year before we can finally get to 2023 and a more normalized economic outlook.
Okay, moving on, Vishrut, the Indonesian government is very optimistic that the economy can grow for about 5% in 2022. But with the current threats to our economy and the recent spike of COVID-19 cases in the country, how realistic do you think this target is?
So we are fairly optimistic about 2022 growth prospects in Indonesia. We've seen recently economic indicators picking up. We've seen consumers going back into the market, going back out there spending. Things are looking a little bit better. We expect growth of 5.6%, so just slightly higher than what the BI is forecasting. And we expect growth of 3.3% this year. So following on from a very weak 2021. We do think fairly strong growth in 2022 is possible. Partly due to base effects. So 2021 being a challenging year means that 2022 growth is going to come off this low base. It's going to be a slightly higher on that count. On the other hand, we're going to see stronger exports, continue momentum into 2022. The manufacturing sector, mining also providing some support to growth as well. The key risks to our outlook are still the COVID variants. And if we see a very significant third wave that requires lockdown measures, etc., that could lead to a downward revision of our forecasts. But barring that, I think the Indonesian economy is well placed for a fairly strong 2022 and moving back onto 2023 more towards a more normal potential growth path of around 5% in 2023-2024.
Okay, 5.6% for 2022. That's very optimistic. But how do you think with the recent spike of COVID-19 cases in the country, yesterday we recorded 500 cases in Indonesia. How do you think this will impact the economic recovery that is currently taking place?
Yeah, Monica, I think the fresh waves of COVID that we're seeing across the world are definitely a challenge to our economic outlooks, not just in Indonesia, but across the world as well. So far, what we have observed in places like the UK and US, where we've seen very significant escalations of the pandemic, is that policymakers have chosen not to enforce lockdowns while the current pandemic wave is going on. We've seen an improved vaccination coverage, and the Omicron variant is of course causing fewer hospitalizations than the Delta. As a result, because of the lower intensity of lockdowns, the economic impact is going to be slightly lower. Things may be different across the world, of course. In Indonesia, we do not anticipate that the wave is going to be more economically costly relative to what we have seen so far globally at this point in time. However, of course, things could turn out to be very different given this is an evolving health situation. But in the event that we do not require very significant lockdowns and we don't require a very significant health intervention, in that case, things should be okay. I think the key risk is that, of course, there's a new variant that comes into the picture. And then again, a few months down the line, we're again discussing about how we need to manage the pandemic, etc., and maintain the health situation stability later on in the year, that could affect our economic forecast for 2022 more significantly.